Otherwise, we'll have to share to everyone when they're by email to watch afterwards. Give me 1 second as I send it out, and we can kick off. Very upsetting. Okay, everyone, we've sent out, I don't know why it keeps putting this new link as a weird thing, but okay, let's go. Let's just, I think we might have to just kick off. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I'm sorry for any of our stream issues. Thank you for dealing with us as we get through this. We are live today to talk to Will from Borderless AI, and we have here our co-host, Joe. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's great to have you on board. I'm actually on board anyway. Sorry, I'm really excited to see the product today. I haven't seen all of the nitty-gritty that I think we're going to get into today, so I'm pretty excited about that. And Joe, I think you said you used to work at NEOR, so I think you're the perfect person to ask all the questions.
I spent six months at NEOR, so I'm certainly no expert, but this is pre-AI, so I'm actually interested to see how the products, the EOR categories change with AI.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see more of the products. So thank you again. Let's start off with, well, what is Borderless AI for people who don't know what it does? What's the elevator pitch?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jessie. So Borderless AI, we're an AI native employer of record. So a lot of folks are still not familiar with EOR in the traditional sense. So I'll just explain that. An EOR is a platform whereby it enables companies around the world to onboard talent in any country without them needing to set up a legal entity. So you could be a startup in London, you could be a startup in New York, and you could have a sales team in Mexico, 2 engineers in Germany, and a marketing manager in Sweden. And you turn around, you want to hire these people, and you go, okay, how do I pay them? How do I pay them in local currency? How do I onboard them compliantly? Are they an employee? Are they a contractor? How do I get them benefits? You can't really do any of that without either using an EOR or doing it yourself, which is usually cost prohibitive. So Borderless AI, we have a tech platform and entities around the world, and we enable our customers to onboard their international talent onto our platform. Where AI plays into it, it really enhances the customer experience for our users. So things like submitting expense reports, onboarding your bank account. You know, we're moving from clicking buttons to just chatting back and forth with an AI agent, and that's where the AI comes into our platform.
I really like to hear that. So why don't we get your screen up? Let's have a look at this baby. Let's see where the AI helps us here. I think that's, when you think of traditional SaaS, right, there is a lot more navigation, there's a lot more clicks, there's a lot more, manual effort. So it's interesting to see how, an AI native platform like yours, like where does the AI, make you more efficient? Where can it help the team? So
yeah, totally. So I'll run through the product, and I'll zoom in so everybody can see it on the stream. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a lot of traditional features. You'll have your hires. This customer has hires all over the world. You have obviously a talent pool that you can hire from. So anybody that wants more talent around the world, timesheets, all your payroll. So when is payroll getting sent? You can see this, and this customer has 10 dozen countries around the world. We support pretty much every currency around the world, invoicing, expenses. But where AI comes in are items like onboarding an employee. So for instance, in this case, a user wants to onboard an employee and they don't know if they're a employee or a contractor and how they should be classified from a compliance perspective. And that's really important around different countries where compliance is really heavy. So what we've done, not to get too technical, but we've partnered with both Cohere, one of the largest large language model companies, and PwC, and we've used a technology called Retrieval Augmented Generation, RAG. And what that allows us to do is really parse a corpus of employment law data and large language models and understand where and what classification talent should be undertaken on. So if you see here, this individual, this user, they're wanting to bring on a marketing manager in Mexico. We don't know if their hours are daily or hourly. We talk back and forth with an AI agent. We are understanding that it's a monthly fixed salary. All these inputs and tips and tricks that go into just day-to-day working for this individual in Mexico, but the business manager or the HR professional doesn't necessarily know if they should be an employee or a contractor. And as you go through the flow, you'll see ultimately there's a determination made, real, raw, large language models coupled with a corpus of data from PwC on all the employment data, and it gives you a determination, and you can actually download a compliance report of, hey, this individual is actually classified as an employee, and then you can onboard them onto the borderless entity in Mexico.
And Will, can I ask you a question here? So let's say I'm a small team and I don't have a HR person yet. I've got a recruitment team, they're hiring people. We want to hire global talent. Is this something that you see people using, in recruitment as well as HR? Like anyone, what are your clients? Where are your clients using this? In what teams?
Yeah.
And who is the normal user?
Yeah, the great thing about Borderless is, we give away all of our AI features for free. So you can use our AI features for free, no cost. Everything I just showed you is free. So we find actually a lot of employment law uses our product. A lot of HR talent acquisition uses our product. They come online, they want to know, okay, I'm hiring in Mexico, I'm hiring in Latvia, I'm hiring in Brazil. What are the compliance, what are the prices, what are the government burdens that go in to employing a team in those respective countries? I want to interface, on an AI native experience, which Borderless AI presents. I want to interface on an experience like that and get those answers. Now, of course, if that leads to them wanting to use an EOR or global payroll or contractor of record solution, we're here for them. And that's where we come into the fray. But really at the top of the funnel, we see a lot of HR managers, people leaders, talent acquisition using our product for items like that.
Yeah, I think this is such a obviously good use case for AI. Like even a few years ago when I was in EOR, we would have all this documentation and it'd be a database, and it would literally be you'd need to go through by country, and we would have every country in the world in there and figure out what the employment laws for that country, and then go back to your candidate. So yeah, having AI, you could just query with all the documentation makes a ton of sense, right?
Totally. And I'll dive into another instance here. So I know I'm zoomed in a lot for the stream, but in this case, let's say, Jessie, that okay, you've gone in and you've determined that this employee or this talent is going to be indeed an employee, not a contractor. Now you got to have a compliant agreement with them. So instead of back and forth with a lawyer, going back and forth and trying to maybe find an employment lawyer, because if you're bringing on one person in Sweden, chances are you don't have an employment lawyer in Sweden that that you can call up, that you're ready to pay $2,000.
I know that pain. I know that pain very well.
Exactly. So here, you can chat back and forth with what we call HR GPT. HR GPT is in the black and white box here, and then the user entries and prompts are in the black box. So you can chat back and forth with HR GPT. Here they're onboarding an individual. Mm-hmm. They're asking, okay, where is this individual located? Simple information like phone number, location, but then it gets a little more complicated. I mentioned it's in California. HR GPT understands California labor law. I mentioned it's a VP of product. So they're going to understand probably maybe a more higher paid individual, a desk worker, knowledge-based type of individual. It's asking, okay, what are typical background checks? Do you want me to run a background check? So AI can, have an integration with a background check provider and run that background check for the customer.
So you integrate with background check providers to do that?
Correct. Yeah. So you probably know the usual suspects of the kind of leading next gen background check providers, but we partner with a couple of them.
Crazy.
Right now, if you're bringing somebody on in a new country, a lot of the job descriptions actually need to be compliant. So you can ask HR GPT to make you a compliant for that specific state or country or geo, ask you to make a compliant job description. I want them to do that in this case. Here's the job description for my VP of product. It's asking if it's full-time, what the salary is it, hourly, is it a full-time position? Ultimately, it's asking things like vacation pay. And now I want to actually see my agreement so I can, click through the product and I can see a summary that I can share with my HR team, but I want to see my actual kind of employment agreement. So I can download or view the agreement here, and here it is, fully compliant employment agreement within seconds, no cost to me, created with best-in-class legal and AI support. So those are just
Is that something that you need? Is that something that like this is your style of template, or is it like can I make sure it's my font, my company's font, or on my letterhead, or is there any kind of customization of that, or is it rather like you give me like the standard like text here?
Yeah.
Later, or
Yeah, so you can make adjustments on the right hand side here. You can make adjustments to the actual terms, and we won't let you go out of compliance in putting these elements in. So if you want to give 300 days off, you wouldn't be able to do that, or you wouldn't be able to pay somebody under minimum wage. So we would keep you in compliance. Customizations, etc. All that, coming in beta, letterhead, all that fun stuff from an employee experience perspective, all that's on the roadmap.
And is this the same level as like working with a legal professional? Like we all know the caveat people give sometimes, like this is not legal advice. Like how does that work when you're interacting with an AI who's giving you advice on legislation?
Well, the beautiful thing is because of RAG technology, we're taking legal data and historical corpuses of employment law for a specific state, country, region, province, territory, and we're taking all of that data and we're augmenting it with AI. So really it is, it's not just AI. There's a large legal component that's here. Of course, there will be, where appropriate, disclaimers that potentially the company might want to get it checked or reviewed by a lawyer. But even at that point, we've done a lot of the heavy lifting for the individual. So offer letters, employment agreements can go out at a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the speed.
Very cool. I can also imagine it's quite interesting, this feature for like we used to, think about opening up in a new market. We'd be like, oh, what's the cost of opening up in that new market to hire someone? What are the compliance aspects? What are all of these kind of costs, right? From a strategic perspective, we'd have to work with, local people and ask and get costings, or make, random guesses, right? And this basically feels like you could ask all these questions and get your inputs for your strategic decision, whether we'd open in market A or market B based on, with this input in the mix, right?
Totally, and you can ask HR GPT to find you specific, costs and burdens and benchmarks, and these are kind of the most popular prompts in what we see from users asking. So paid time off in the UK, and these are areas that are answered specific for your company's database. And they'll provide actual data reports for you that you can use and you can share with your legal teams, your HR, your finance teams, etc.
And is this something that is for like internal HR and like TA teams, or is it also for like it's not for everyone in the company to have access and ask questions, or is it restricted for everyone else?
Yeah, it's typically HR teams. We find legal
Yeah.
teams as well, but typically HR teams only within larger
Yep.
companies are the main users. So big, big enterprises,
Yeah.
HR teams, multi-person teams, 10, 15 person HR,
Yeah.
TA teams at large enterprises.
Very cool. And so we've seen this part. What about the other parts of the system? Because obviously you've got this, GPT, fantastic. You've got other elements of things. You guys do global payroll. You don't only do EOR. How does that look like? You do contractor management. What do those things look like?
Yeah, maybe let me kind of go through an AI native experience for an employee.
Yeah,
So like what the employee sees. I think
sounds
we've
good.
all been there before, where we're starting at a new role and we need to onboard our bank account and it's all this paperwork. I got to send it to the HR team to get my direct deposit set up. In this case, I'm going to walk you through an AI native version of that. You have an individual, they need help adding their bank account.
Can I ask two questions from the chat
Yeah, of course.
before we move on? So
Yeah, yeah.
one question
Great.
is, does it take into account live changes in labor laws or compliance related data, or is it for a fixed period, or is it good up until a certain point
Yeah.
in time?
Great question. So AI real-time web search, so constantly scraping, to lack of a better term, auditing, maybe a better term, all employment law around the world and the markets that we operate in. There's some markets that we're not in yet. There's other markets that we've gone deeper into, but there's constant audits in place where our AI RAG, augmented with a corpus of data from large leading law firms, is auditing employment law around the world. So if you ask a question today and the around minimum wage in California, and tonight minimum wage changes in California, the answer will be different if you ask that question tomorrow
Interesting.
because the corpus will be updated.
Okay, and there's two more questions. How do you deal with permanent establishment issues? PE
Yeah,
issues.
yeah, great call out. Permanent establishment. That's less of a AI slanted feature. Really, not even a technology feature. That's really a legal governance item. For instance, in Germany, it's a big one, whereby you have 17 people, 30 people, and you're bringing them on via an EOR. And if you have them there for handful of months, the government might interject and say, "Hi, you really should set up a permanent entity in this country, and you can't use an EOR necessarily to forego that." So there's ways to go about that compliantly, whereby you have a resting period for your talent. You can have them on board again after a certain amount of period of probation. So varying degrees of complexity depending on the country. But I would say because of all the costs that we save internally by using AI, we actually can reinvest that a lot into on the ground legal support to help our customers navigate those tricky situations.
Great. And maybe the last one, and then you can jump into it because I do want to see this flow before we finish up. Is it possible to only subscribe to the HR GPT agent, or do you have to have like the EOR product to be able to use it?
Nope. If you're a latecomer to today's session, we give all of our AI away for free. So really everything you saw today is free to use.
So I could just go on now and get an account and I could use it.
Correct, yeah.
There
Yeah.
you go. There you go, crowd. Go check it out. Jump on and use it for free. That's actually really amazing.
Yeah, no,
And
Oh, go ahead, Jessie.
so I can answer this other last question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Access is only given to like the HR or internal teams. It's not an employee facing.
Correct.
The HR GPT is not an employee facing help system. Does the admin have capacity to authorize the access? So I don't believe so. When it comes to the HR GPT, we can't give people access in the whole company to it, right? Like it wouldn't make sense to do that.
No, and because, we have permissions, so anybody in the company can get access to HR GPT out of the box, which is answering general HR questions. But then HR questions regarding internal specific elements to your company, that's where permissions play in, and that's where HR only has access.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And all right, then let's go through we've got 9 minutes. So let's try and do it in 8 minutes. So we've got 1 minute to
Yeah.
wrap up and see the flow of how an employee would go through this.
Yeah, so this is an employee, they're onboarding. We've all been in this onboarding with paperwork, needing to set up my bank account. Here, I'm asking HR GPT, can you help me set up my bank account? So again, we're moving from, clicks to prompts in the world of AI. It's a personal bank account. I mentioned it's in Canada. It's asking what currency am I bringing in funds? It's Canadian because I'm in Canada. The company I work for is in the UK. And then it's asking me to, update my bank account based on local bank transfer or SWIFT. And, I feel like I'm on the ball, smart enough person, but I don't really know the difference there. I just started the company. I don't really know what the difference is at. So I can actually ask HR GPT. It'll answer that for me. And then it'll mention, okay, probably best to use a local SWIFT international bank transfer to get my money. It talks through how currency conversion will work. It'll answer what currency I get my funds in on payroll. I throw it for a loop here. I try and trip it up. HR GPT keeps me on track. So ultimately, okay, I'm going to use a SWIFT international bank transfer to receive my funds. This has taken me only 7 minutes to go through in one sitting. I don't need to bug HR. HR's happy because support tickets go down. Simple things like my name, my country code, and then it's asking me things like my postal code, and then to get it a little more confusing, it's asking where I need to put my bank statement number, and I don't really know where that is, right? So I can ask HR GPT. It mentions it's at the bottom of a check, so I look and okay, certainly I have that. I bank with Scotiabank. And ultimately, I can make my direct deposit withdrawal form within one sitting. I have it here. This is all fake data, so we don't need to worry about compliance. But ultimately, I've just set up my bank account in one sitting. And again, I don't need to sit with HR. I don't need to bug anybody at finance. And ultimately, it's a better experience for me, and then less administrative burden for HR teams.
Great. So that's like, I'm obviously onboarding into the company. They've hired me. They're going to pay me. Is there the contractor management part? Can we see what that looks like or what that does a little bit just quickly? Sorry, you put your screen down. I just want to see that just for a couple of minutes.
Of course.
And Joe, if you've got any questions, please jump in. But I think that's really interesting because a lot of people are doing contractor hiring. They're doing interim work. I don't know if you're seeing that too, Joe, but hiring in different ways. And I think that falls under that contractor space versus necessarily employee space.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the workforce is becoming more fractional and more flexible, right? So
yeah, so you look, companies, just to really quickly, because I know we're running out of time, they're really becoming more flexible. So you have contractors, you have employees. Our product actually governs and manages both. So employees are housed in this product. You can have contractors in Spain, you can have employees in Spain, Kazakhstan even, Australia. So all of these items are all housed and supported in one console. You can understand, payment methods set up. That's configured differently for a contractor versus an employee. So it's all supported in one console.
And so what happens if I'm like a normal employee of a business, not through an EOR? Can I also use Borderless to just do payroll for like normal employees?
Yeah,
Could I have like
certainly.
my whole workforce being paid by you?
We have global payroll. We're rolling out domestic payroll in a lot of markets, but contractor of record, contractor, and then obviously EOR.
Great. Very cool. I mean, that was great. Really liked seeing that. I also like I think also the people in the watching live really liked your HR GPT. I think that's quite cool. Also,
Thank you.
I don't know, Joe, as a recruiter, like trying to work out if you can hire someone, like I feel like that was such a pain for me. Like when I was hiring people, I'm like, can we hire in this country? I'm like, I don't know. Go to a lawyer. It was such a pain. I feel
Yeah, I
like
don't
tell
know
you
if
what, like,
lawyers are my best friend, but we're just trying to make lives easier for HR teams.
and often like candidates ask these questions like way before they get hired, right? Like they want to know that when they're considering an opportunity or when they're interviewing. So even for like the TA team to be able to go and get this information is
Yes.
super useful.
Yeah, and that's why
Yeah.
we give it away for free, because people want to be a little, they want to plan, they want to understand prior
Yeah.
to getting an offer.
I mean, really, so many use cases for that. Fantastic. Well, that's it, guys. We are done. We've seen the product. We're on time. We had streaming issues, but we made it. So thank you so much, Joe, for joining,
Thank you
and
both.
thank you so much, Will, for taking us through the product.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you both for the time and the interest in thinking of us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Talk
And
soon.
quick follow up, we're going to be sending out an email. You'll be able to connect with Joe. We'll send you through. We've got a special offer for Borderless if you're interested in them. So make sure you check your emails and get that. And you can obviously find out more of our sessions coming up on the Stacked Luma page and find more tech on stack.tech. Thanks everyone for joining. See you.